This is Amanda from the 36th LD Democrats and our endorsement interview for Joe Mallahan, who's running for Seattle mayor. Joe, over to you for an introduction.
Thank you, Amanda. It's a pleasure to be here. Maybe the first thing I should do is credential myself as a Democrat. I doorbelled for Obama in Indiana. I doorbelled for Bernie in South Carolina, which was a huge disaster, and as the vote worked out. I raised $20,000 from Washington State residents to fund Get Out the Vote campaign in Orange County, North Carolina, where I knew the Orange County, North Carolina Democratic chair, and North Carolina was ostensibly really on the edge in terms of whether Trump or Biden would take that, or I'm sorry, Harris. But anyway, I've been an active Democrat. When I ran for mayor in 2009, I won the King County Democrats endorsement, all kinds of labor endorsements, and about half the LD's endorsements. I don't think I got the 36, but I don't hold a grudge, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm sorry, Amanda, you said there'd be a timer. I don't see a timer, so I'm going to keep rambling.
Yep, but you'll hear a sound. You've got about a minute left. Go ahead,
Okay,
so
very
keep
good.
going. Yeah.
I was born and raised in the Northwest. My mom and dad were big social justice advocates. They had 9 kids. All of us have done various things in social justice, including overseas social workers and in Africa and Venezuela and Oaxaca, Mexico, and a bunch of other stuff domestically. I was a business person, but I leveraged my social justice values at T-Mobile, the wireless company, to drive huge value to low-income customers, to give them credit that they otherwise wouldn't have received without the sort of innovations that my team developed, and to drive down wireless prices dramatically. You know, back 100 years ago, when I was first starting, people had landlines, so offering unlimited service to, I'm sorry, that's it, right? I'm sorry, we out of time there?
Yeah, you can finish your thought, but yes.
Yeah, anyway, I'm really well known at T-Mobile and in the industry as a leader of getting low income and credit challenged people wireless service at great rates.
Great, thanks. Our first question is going to be asked by Anita.
Hi, please tell us why you are running for this office, what experiences you bring to this role, and how it informs how you will govern.
Great. Yeah. So I'm getting into this race late. And the reason I got in is because notwithstanding, there's a lot of great candidates opposing or trying to challenge Bruce Harrell. I think I'm the only one that can beat him. And that's why I'm in. And I think the mayor has no vision and has mismanaged the city quite badly, particularly the police department. There seems to be a culture of misogyny and sexual harassment that seems to be pervasive in his administration and in the police department. I'm a longtime supporter of King County Sexual Assault Resource Center. I was a board member and then an honorary board member for over a decade, so I'm really tuned in on that. And 90% of sexual assault cases in Seattle go uninvestigated. And that's because it hasn't been a priority. And what kind of mayor would allow that to exist? And I'm not going to go into all the other problems of the police department. The police department needs huge reform. That's something I think I can do. Homelessness is not being addressed urgently, and I have a plan for that, including really focusing on low-income housing tax credits and being a promoter of development of low-income housing. I'm also a big supporter of social housing, and I think a mayor that supports that is going to really drive the success of that new program. And then the other thing is just affordable housing. We just need to add a ton more housing stock, focus on density in transportation proximate neighborhoods. And those are my big 3 things, that all of which I think the city in general and the mayor in particular have no vision for, have no passion for. I'm a charismatic leader, and I'm a change agent, and I have a long resume for that. And that's why I've gotten into the race.
Great, thank you. Our second question will be asked by Tyler.
The city has policies to address displacement while allowing for more housing. However, these policies have not worked in many parts of Seattle. What specific tools will you use to stop Seattle's continued loss of affordable housing for low income families?
So the best way to address that is just to have massive housing development. And I referred earlier to low income housing tax credits. There's the 1986 tax reform law gave huge tax credits to investors in low income housing. And right now, those investors are kind of ignoring Seattle and other places in Washington because there aren't political leadership let's just talk about in Seattle that are really promoting that and making it easy in terms of code wise and building permit approvals. There's nobody promoting that. That's the very easiest way for us to drive more housing. And I think, in neighborhoods, low-income neighborhoods and communities of color where housing's been lost, the mayor can take steps to really promote development of those sorts of units in those neighborhoods through offering co-investment, municipal bonding, investment in parts of those developments. We should be having tens of those being approved every quarter, and right now it's sort of a dead market. And I think a leader who understands the finances behind that and can attract the investors to do that can really make a big difference. I'm a business person. I have an MBA in finance. I get this stuff, and I'm a social justice advocate. So it's something I'm passionate about, and I would be really delighted to have the opportunity to drive those sort of solutions in Seattle.
Great, thank you. Our third question will be asked by Anita.
What specific actions will you take to ensure enforceable progress towards carbon neutrality by 2050 and advancing environmental justice?
Yeah, I hate to be a broken record, but I think 68% of Seattle's emissions come from transportation, and therefore building dense housing, in upzoning areas and promoting the development of additional housing in those areas. And then obviously, continuing to promote good transit options and supporting electric car charging and all of those, and better bike lanes. I'm big into segregated bike lanes. We're not really yet a biking city, and the way to get there is through segregated bike lanes. So I mean, there's a range of things to do, but I think the number one thing is housing density, because again, 68% of emissions are coming from transportation. So let's get out of our cars and live in places where we can jump on transit and reach services by taking a simple walk or a bike ride. And I think, again, a mayor who's focused on that and is a real promoter of that development could have a huge difference. And I think Bruce Harrell is kind of mailing it in on that stuff. I don't see him showing any sort of vision towards that sort of development.
All right, thank you very much. Our fourth question and final prepared question will be asked by Tyler.
The current federal administration has shown hostility and taken action against cities and counties like ours. How do you anticipate navigating and leading when we face urgent, complex, and dynamic challenges to civil rights, our laws, funding, and more?
I'm not sure if you guys are going to like this, but my answer is we're not going to back down. We're not going to concede anything to the Trump administration. If anyone had any doubt about our policy of not cooperating with ICE, the Seattle Police Department and other agencies in Seattle, they certainly shouldn't have a doubt now. ICE is an immoral, unconstitutional force of the Trump administration. It is an organization that commits human rights abuses every day. And as an American, that's not something that I can countenance. And forgive me, but I'm willing to put Seattle's federal funding at risk to take a stand here. And I'm also willing to put my personal safety at risk. I mean, to have community leaders, municipal leaders, and governors stand up 100% against this stuff. It has safety ramifications for people who do that. I mean, why are the Republicans so cowering of their maniacal leader? It's because they're fearful. They're fearful politically, but they're also fearful for their lives. I mean, and we Democrats need to stand up and show example to those cowardly Republicans and take a very, very clear and firm stand. And I'm just heartbroken when I see universities and law firms and other organizations sort of accommodate Trump, negotiate with him, flatter him, and get what they think they need. He's an abusive spouse. Don't accommodate him. Punch him in the face. That's my opinion.
All right, thank you. Those are the four prepared questions we have. Then we have an opportunity for follow-ups from folks on Zoom. Oh, there we go. The timer went off. And I'll give a second for anyone to raise their hand with a follow-up question. All right, I've got Anita has a question.
This may be a bit odd, but why now? Why do you want to run now?
I'm sorry, the words now, Anita. Why
Yeah,
now?
why now?
Yeah, I looked at Bruce Harrell's performance, and it's appalling. It's appalling on virtually every level. Maybe he cleaned up downtown a little bit. Maybe addressed the homelessness problem this much. But again, the Seattle Police Department is in complete dysfunction. And why now? Because I really believe I'm the only one in the race who can beat Bruce Harrell. And quite frankly, I have the management experience and the maturity. I'm 62 years old. I used to tell people where I work that I'm post ambition. So obviously running for mayor is a little bit ambitious, but I'm really in it simply to improve our lives in Seattle. I mean, you guys, we're the wealthiest, one of the wealthiest cities in the United States, and our homelessness is just a tragedy. And our police department is a cluster, and our children can't afford to stay in Seattle because they can't afford the housing. So that's all the reasons I'm running.
Great, thank you. I've got a question from Tyler.
Joe, I was wondering if you wanted to expand a little bit more on that piece around homelessness and what would some of your priorities be as a mayor to
Sure.
change our status quo?
Yeah, I mean, I realize that homelessness is highly complex. I mean, I think there's three types of homeless. There's people who simply, they're pretty able people. They're not in trauma or addiction, and they simply have lost their housing. And then there's people who are less able and also not in addiction. And then there's mental health and addiction. Those three categories of unhoused people. And I just think there are simple, again, none of this stuff is simple, but why can't we deliver 5,000 tiny homes in a series of villages across the city? So emergency, the long-term solution is build a lot more housing stock, and a lot more housing stock that's targeted towards low income, and just housing stock in general drives down market rents and drives down low income market rents as well. And so, I'm sorry, I'm rambling here a little bit, but build a ton of housing, but also have a strong approach to emergency housing right now. And to me, tiny home villages is a really good solution that we just got to have the political will to get done.
All right, Barbara, did you have your hand up or you take it down?
Barbara, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. So I have a funky microphone, so I'm going to try to make this quick. I want to go back and ask you, can you hear me? Is this?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm turning my ear, but I
Thanks.
can hear you.
I want to ask you, as a businessman, everyone talks about building more low income and low affordable housing. But the truth is that Seattle is such a hot market that you can't afford, unless it's hugely subsidized, to build those buildings new. It's just too hot a market for developers to do that. So I think housing, we should be looking at conversion, buying and converting existing buildings that, you know, maybe are ready to be renovated. Could you talk as a businessman about whether you think that's a good way to go and whether we could capture some units there that will never be
Sure.
available?
Yeah, absolutely. Conversion is another solution, and I think actually you can create a project that allows you to use low-income housing tax credits for that. But while I agree it's a little bit more expensive to build in Seattle than elsewhere, rents are higher. So, and again, we're trying to get rents lower, but the reason that business people, investors, are not investing as much as they should in Seattle on low-income housing. And by the way, low-income housing tax credits apply to, you build a building where 30% of the units are low income, and the investments there give these crazy tax credits, but they're federal tax credits, so that's not our problem. To these investors. And this low-income housing tax credit investment community is a national community. You get people from Florida, New York, California, all over investing in these. The banks are big in doing this stuff. But so anyway, the main reason we're not getting that done, though, is it takes too long to get permitting accomplished. So to me, that's something the city can control. It really isn't so much the cost in Seattle. But again, I have no opposition to conversions as well. But new housing, the other thing about new housing is you can target it at transit or in neighborhoods that have lost low-income housing, and you can do additional incentives to make that happen. So that's kind of where I think it's the easiest focus, and it's what these low-income tax credit investors are interested in. It's just real simple.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else, I'll maybe pop in here as well with a question. So this past year, so small businesses, as usual, it's a pretty rough time for small businesses, and small businesses in Seattle are definitely no exception. One of the challenges this past year has been the expiration, for example, of the tip credit and for paying the minimum wage, and seeing that a lot of restaurants in particular and other businesses have expressed how that will hit them. What specifically do you think of that you can do to help our small and micro businesses in Seattle thrive, while at the same time making sure that our large business partners are paying their fair share to help our city and as part of our community?
Yeah, I think the jump start tax was a great start. That's a wonderful accomplishment, and due credit to Katie Wilson and others who made that happen. I think I'm all for progressive taxes, and the fact that we don't have progressive taxes in Washington State or very much in Seattle is a huge hindrance. But the biggest thing I think we can do, for at least my experience, my wife ran a business in the Greenwood neighborhood for some time, and public safety is what it was our biggest concern. We had people walking into the shop and doing crazy things, mentally unhealthy people, and drug addicted people. But anyway, that's the easiest thing I think for public safety, is delivering public safety to small businesses, and then not burdening them with additional taxes. And quite frankly, I think wealthy individuals is the next place we should really focus. I think Seattle residents have proven over and over that they are generous and willing to be taxed if it's for the right thing. And I can deliver, and I think I can promote the idea that I can deliver efficient use of additional taxpayer dollars.
Great, thank you. We've got about a minute left, so if there's not another question, I'll go ahead and give you a chance to say anything that you might have wanted to complete and didn't have a chance to, or anything that we didn't ask you about that
Sure.
you'd like us to know.
Well, let me tell you, I have 30 years of business experience, but the last message I want to promote is, oh, I want to run the city like a business. I mean, quite frankly, businesses are just as inefficient as governments. And anybody that tells you otherwise hasn't been exposed to businesses like I have. I've been inside 100 different large corporations in the United States and in Japan, and all of them have their inefficiencies, just like we do in government. What I do bring is a love of people, and I'm a great developer of people, and a love of the people who work for me. And I think that makes all the difference. And I think my personality, we not only need to hold the cops accountable. You know, I need to tell the police, look, you negotiated this lack of accountability in your last contract. I'm going to change that. But on the other hand, I appreciate how hard and dangerous your job is. And we got to get together and change the culture inside of the department. And I think we can accomplish both of those things. And that takes a unique change management leader like me.
Great, thank you. That concludes our endorsement interview, so I'm going to stop the recording.